Ladies and gentlemen, Charles, Serbia Weekly with Charles. And folks, Serbia Weekly is supposed to be about the positives and all that stuff, about bringing to light, showing the rest of the world things about Serbia. Interesting folks, foreigners who come here, etc. But we must bring up this topic because we're in the midst, folks, of the 78-day illegal bombing campaign that happened against Serbia in 1999. It started March 24th, 1999, and it lasted 78 days. Thousands of folks were killed, innocent civilians, etc. But I want to give you a little bit of background first of all, folks. If you followed me for a long, long time, I have over 900 videos on YouTube. Maybe it's 1,000 now. I talk a lot about Serbia, about your food, about your history, about your culture, about different cities, about just random things. But I've mentioned this before, and I want to come clean here to all of you. If you're a new follower to me, I am an American, 100% American. Well, as 100% American as you can be in the United States. We're a very diverse country, but I have no Balkan blood in me. Unfortunately, I wish I did have some Serbian blood, but my father did some DNA, and I do not, unfortunately. But anyway, 1999, well, back up, 1996, okay? I was legally allowed to vote in my first presidential election in 1996. President Bill Clinton, he was running, William Jefferson Clinton was running against Bob Dole, I do believe. And I was a big supporter of Bill Clinton as a young liberal. I was from a really conservative area in the middle part of Illinois. Illinois is a big state. Chicago is very liberal. The rest of the state is really, really conservative, almost Oklahoma, Kansas conservative. But I was always a lefty-leaning liberal that believed in minority rights and all that stuff, you know? And I still sway that way with American politics. But anyway, I could vote. I thought Bill Clinton at that time was a savior. Our economy was booming. That was during like the dot-com boom, Silicon Valley. Everything was good. People had money. I was going to college and working full-time, which I've done since I was 16. So what little bit I knew about the rest of the world, I was always interested in other countries, so I knew some things about geography. Most Americans don't, unfortunately, because in our education system, that's one of the least focused on subjects. But I remember when Bill Clinton came on TV in 1999, and Bill Clinton came on and he gave this 4-minute little message about why we had to intervene here in Kosovo, the southern part of Serbia. I listened to it and I thought at that time with what he said, that the Serbians were taking men and their sons out and shooting them and doing all these things. As an American, we're a very isolated country. We, in the USA, we don't know a lot about the rest of the world. All the world media focuses on us. All of our media in the USA is corrupted. It's financed by big corporations, the weapon industry, things like that. We've got lobbyists, big corporations lobbying our congressmen. It's the most corrupt bunch of shit imaginable. But as a silly American who knew very little about the rest of the world, I thought at that time when my president came on TV and said that we needed to do something for the betterment of the world, I supported it. I thought, my God, we've got to do it. Why are they killing these innocent people? You know, that's what I thought, folks, honestly. Fast forward to 2010. I was in automobile sales management. I was in my office. One day, one of my sales guys comes in on a Saturday. He said, Charles, we're just shooting the shit. He said, Charles, have you heard about a Facebook page called I Hate the USA? I'd never heard of it. At that time, I was fairly new to Facebook. And I thought, why would anybody hate the USA? Silly, blinded American person. I looked that up and I saw a guy named Dragan at the time. I thought, what the fuck is his name? And what Alexander, these other kids saying bad things about the USA. Started arguing with them. Long story short, we added each other. We start talking about American intervention into Serbia and different things. And I still had my view, but I listened to their view, and they invited me to Serbia in May 28, 2010. I came, I visited here for 2 weeks, loved it, went home, quit my job, moved to Mexico, studied how I could move to Serbia, moved here later in 2011. And then I still had this in my head that what the United States did was probably the right thing to do. But before you hit dislike and you start hating me and calling me an asshole and a spy and an evil bastard, when you like to think in your country that when your president and your government tells you something is right, that it's right. I did think that until here in Serbia, I volunteered at schools. I went all over and volunteered. I remember down in Pirot, I was speaking to a group of kids in Pirot, and when I was finished speaking, I had some kids come up and say, hey, I said, where are you from? They said, we're from Kosovo. And I said, Kosovo, Metoja. And I said, wow, what are you doing here? And they said, well, we have no choice. They said, one day in our house, we had a knock at the door. The KLA showed up. That was the Kosovo Liberation Army, which the United States of America used to label as a terrorist organization, mind you. They came up on their door armed, and they tell these Serbian families, you have 20 minutes, an hour, whatever, to pack up whatever you can carry and get out of here, or else. So their families did it. Families with a big farm. They load up what possessions they could take. They get out. To avoid being slaughtered, if you will. Now, the kid said, I said, oh, wow. I said, so you were forced out of there. Where's your property now? Did you get money for it? Who's there? No. An Albanian family moved into this property. And I thought, what? How is that fair? That can't happen. You know? How can the United Nations, how can the world let something like that, an injustice like that happen? Okay? Then I start looking into it a little bit more. When you're outside of your own country, you start watching media, listening to opposing views to your country's corrupted media. And then I start finding out some other things I did not know that I didn't believe until I researched it more. My government, people that were involved in the Clinton White House, the ones I really looked up to and I thought, wow, they're what is good about this world. They're keeping the world like it should be, peaceful and safe. But come to find out, those people responsible for the bombing campaign against Serbia in 1999, Madeleine Albright, some things had labeled this war Madeleine's War because they said Bill Clinton was on his way out. We have 2 terms in the USA. 8 years is all you can serve as president. He was in his final year. The economy was booming still. Things were good. He had his corruption, or not corruption, but he had his problems with Monica Lewinsky and all that stuff, but he was almost out. They said Madeleine Albright was the one that really, really pushed this conflict here in Serbia. Madeleine Albright, if you don't know, she was born, I think, in the 1930s. She was a kid during the World War II. Serbian people saved Madeleine Albright's life. There's many articles. You can look it up. You can see pictures of her swimming with some Serbians in the Danube. They saved her family. She was from Czechoslovakia at the time. The Serbs saved her, but she was so hell-bent on starting this conflict here, okay? And then what I found out that I could not believe, in the Clinton White House, there was at least 4 folks, many others, that invested into this new country. Creating a new country, if you will, for America is a very profitable entity, okay? Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State at the time, responsible for this conflict. She had an investment firm, which many of these former politicians in the USA do have. Hers was called the Albright Capital Management. They invested $100 million or so into the telecommunication and postal service of the new country of Kosovo, if you will. They said that they were looking to sell that, okay? And the selling of that would have been between $400 and $800 million, okay? Another Clinton official, his name is James Pardue. He was special envoy to the Balkans at the time. He was also investing tons and tons, millions of dollars into different things here. Mark Tavlaridis, Mark Tavlaridis, he at the time was a director of the Clinton White House National Security Council. He is currently, or this is something I had read, he's currently making $50,000 a month with contracts in Kosovo. Wesley Clark, the leader of the head of NATO forces who bombed your country, or Serbia here, he invested tons and tons of millions, hundreds of millions in the mining industry, because Kosovo is well known for having all these different minerals that are used in batteries and different things that you can only find in that region in Kosovo. They said also a lot of these politicians had invested in, there was $1 billion project. It said it was roughly going to be worth $1 billion, a 63-mile highway from Pristina down to, I think, the Albanian border or something like that. Currently, the United States of America has no law that says former government officials cannot profit on something like that. To me, that is just unheard of, and I would not believe that unless I read it from numerous sources. I always thought the United States was better than that. I didn't think we would allow that. How can you allow some person who's responsible for the creation of some new country to allow them to come in after their presidency, invest money, and make hundreds of millions of dollars on something like that? That shows you're not doing it for the good of humanity. You're doing it for profit. Wesley Clark, they asked him, he was confronted by some media source, and they asked him about his investments into Kosovo. And he said he considered it insulting, he said, to suggest that there could be a conflict of interest between profit and his former responsibilities in the government. Are you kidding me? So, my friends, I have totally changed my view on it. I think it was a despicable act, something that should have never happened, something that the United States should come out and apologize. Not just the United States, England, Tony Blair, Germany, NATO, all those NATO forces who were responsible for this 78-day bombardment of your country, okay? I have changed. I'm no longer a supporter of that. I look at my government differently. I'm still a proud American. I love my country. I'm happy to be from there, but I look at my country as the people and then the government. There's a huge difference, my friends, okay? Some of the deeds here. We're getting ready to speak. We've got an interview that I did with a young man. He was 16 years old at the time of this bombing. He was in school. He was helping out at this camera store on a internship, if you will. The owner of this little photo shop had to serve in the Serbian military. So this young man at 16 had to take over this photo studio in the heart of Novi Sad during this bombing campaign. We're going to talk to him. We're going to look at some of the pictures that he took and get a feel for what it actually was like, because I can't fathom what it's like. When my country goes to war, it's just war. We don't even know really what that means unless you have family who serve in the military in the USA. You don't know anything about it, and it really doesn't matter. That sounds bad to say, but our money doesn't hyperinflate. We don't have a bomb going to drop on our next door neighbor's home. We're going to have electricity. We're going to go to work. So it doesn't mean anything. It's words, really, when we go to war. When war happens here, it hits you. It hits your family. It hits everything about your daily life, my friend. Some of the things quickly that happened here during the 78-day bombing campaign. Today is the day. It's April 17th. April 17th, 1999, Milica Rakic. If you know anything about Serbia, she's kind of the face, unfortunately. A poor little girl who was in her bathroom at 9:45 p.m., minding her own business. She's a little kid. Shrapnel from NATO bombs blew up the next door building, flew in and killed her. She is the face of this bombing campaign for me and many others. It gives me goosebumps even talking about that. It's disgusting that things like that can happen to an innocent child. But some of the other things that happened, just quickly, they said over 25,000 housing units, that's homes, that's apartment buildings, etc., were destroyed here in Serbia. We say we're doing this to hurt Slobodan Milosevic, to get him out of power. We're attacking civilians here, okay? 25,000 housing units destroyed, hundreds of kilometers of roads destroyed, of railroad tracks destroyed. Niš, Serbia, there was a bomb dropped not once but twice on a passenger train, killing hundreds. I don't know how many civilians, forgive me, not hundreds, but many people killed. Innocent civilians in a passenger train on a bridge. 14 airports here destroyed, 19 hospitals, over 20 some clinics, health clinics destroyed, nearly 100 schools destroyed, 40 plus bridges all over Serbia destroyed, and a couple of them right here in Novi Sad that I get to walk on and enjoy my Saturday mornings walking across these bridges that were destroyed and rebuilt. Over 2,500 airstrikes, 500,000 missiles here in Serbia. That is a number I saw online. Look it up if you so desire. Over 1,300 cruise missiles, 37,000 some cluster bombs. Cluster bombs are illegal. That's a big bomb that inside it's got these little bombs that'll explode. All with depleted uranium, used up uranium. It's expensive to get rid of, so they use it here. Hey, it's cheaper. Let's just drop it here on Serbia. People are still suffering from effects of that. They say the cancer numbers here in Serbia are extremely high for things such as that. All the refineries, or a number of oil refineries in Serbia destroyed. Pančevo I lived in, here in Novi Sad. A third of all the electrical grid of Serbia destroyed. And that's some of the destruction that happened here. They said, one other thing I read, said that there was more bombs dropped here than there was in the Iraq, at a certain point of the Iraq war. Bombs every day. Something else I didn't believe. I looked at a timeline of the bombing over that 78 days. As I mentioned with Igor, that you're going to listen here in a little bit, I thought when I heard about the bombing of Serbia, I thought maybe it was one or two bombs here, bomb there, things like that. No, almost every single day there was bombs going off all over this country, Unbelievable. And it's still to this day, it troubles me to be an American here and to hear things like that. But know, my friends, that I am with you. The things that happen to your people, it happens to me because your people are my people. I live here more than I do in the USA. I've been here nearly 9 years. My best friends are all Serbians. The Serbians invite me into their home. I know mom, grandma, cousin, all these folks who take good care of me are Serbian. And then I have to live with this fact that my government did this, my friends. Terrible. That's it, my friends. Stay tuned. We're going to listen to Igor. We're going to talk a little bit about it and see some of those pictures he took as a 16-year-old and listen to how that affected him and the rest of his family. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles, Serbia Weekly with Charles, right here in this new cultural center, right? Here in Novi Sad, a part of Novi Sad that's called Silk, the Silk part. I forget, kako se kaže na srpskom?
Svilera.
Svilera, yeah, the Svilera part. They opened this new cultural center. And here today, since we're in the midst of the NATO bombing campaign against Serbia in 1999, I've got a really unbelievable guest here. He's got an amazing story, really touching story. I wanted to get a feel for what it was like, because I'm from the middle of the USA, probably one of the most safest places you'll ever be. When we have a war in the United States, no matter where we go around the world, it doesn't affect us personally. Our everyday lives remain the same. This young man, he was 16 years old when this started. He was going to school, he was studying photography, he was working, and he was dealing with this, bombs falling every day. And we're going to find out a little bit about him. Sir, first of all, what is your name?
My name is Igor Jezdimirovic.
Igor, and tell us a little bit about, at this time, what were you doing at 16 years of age? Where were you, etc.?
In that moment I was studying, basically secondary school, finishing the grammar school, but also additionally I go in the school for photographers, and in that moment I was get opportunity to lead one of Photoshop, because the owner of the Photoshop was basically going in the military to take care of the transporting people from one bench of Danube to another.
And why was he doing that? Because all the bridges were gone, or what?
Yeah, in that moment, Novi Sad as a only opposition city was left over without any bridges. So on the 1st April, the first bridge, Varadin Bridge, was destroyed by the NATO bombs. Then the Bridge of the Freedom, and on the end, the Bridge Žeželj was also destroyed. So basically, the two parts of the city of Novi Sad, on one side Novi Sad as a main part, and on other side Varadin and Sremska Kamenica was totally separated. And the only way for the people to connect with their families or to go to work was basically traveling with a military barge or with some other private barge from one side to another.
Yeah, unbelievable. And you told me a story. You said you first heard about the bombing. You was at home in Sremska Kamenica, and you turned on the TV. And how did you find out about the bombing? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, basically we didn't believe that it's possible that this kind of stupidity and madness will happen. And when the first bomb came in the Novi Sad and fall down, and we feel this unbelievable thing that bombing start, we didn't believe in it. So we turn on our national TV music, one channel, other channel TV. Then we turn on some international channels where you get information, basically the bombing of Serbia. In that time, Yugoslavia started. So for me, from this perspective, it is really huge disappointing that the national media in that moment, when the first bomb was falling on the Serbia, didn't basically inform us as a citizens what was happening.
Yeah. And why do you think that is? I mean, why would that not be broadcast to the people on your national television, your media stations?
And now and then, unfortunately, media are not doing very often in the interest of the people, but the interest of the power or people who are on the power. And I believe that this was the huge mistake, because in that moment we should know what was happening, and we should get this information from our national TV. And why? It's a question for the guys who basically, after it allowed that 16 news journalists were killed in our media service. So this kind of misuse of the people and misuse of the media is unfortunately still on the power in Serbia.
So, like before this bombing started, I mean, did you have any ideas, you as a young person? It was probably far from your mind, but did most people expect like the bombing to start? Did you think something like that would happen? Did you have a feeling something was going to be happening like that?
Yeah, the 99 was an end of the 90s, or the period where the whole Balkan was basically passing through the very hard time, with a lot of the war in Croatia, with the war in Bosnia, with the problems all around, and Yugoslavia that was disappearing as a huge country. So we always expect some problems, but nobody believed that the bombs will start falling on our hands. As you said, very often when something is not happening directly to you, you don't have a feeling with it. Of course, we had a feeling of what was happening in Bosnia and Croatia because of huge a huge number of the refugees who were coming, but this was like directly in your city, and you couldn't believe that this will happen. So this was probably one of the situations in which we didn't expect to find ourselves, but we did. So we tried to react as much as possible, and the families, at least for me, was the stožer of our protection that save us from understanding how huge problem and how huge danger was this, because they protect us and offer us this protection.
And during this bombing campaign, something I saw downstairs, we're going to show this a clip in this video. There's those little flyers that were dropped from the planes. Explain those little flyers that the airplanes were dropping on.
You had basically the two wars, or two sides of the war. One was the war that you directly destroyed, the infrastructure here in Serbia. The other war was the media war, to explain the people from the NATO countries and from the United States and from all around why you bombed Serbia. Why you bomb one civilized country in the end of 20th century, so that is in the Europe. So you have media war saying we are bad, we are doing this and this, and also they try to, through these leaflets that were also falling from the sky, to explain that they are doing us the favor. That is not our mistake, but some really bad guy, Milosevic, he is responsible why they now are needed to put bombs on our hand and kill us. This basically they kill us because of our good, not because something else.
Insanity. And what did that do, actually? NATO expected, when they dropped those, that you're going to see that and you people are going to rise up, run to Belgrade, remove Milosevic from power. But you said you saw like unity, really.
Yeah, I was proud of my people. I was really proud on the people who live in Serbia and the way how they react. In that time, 78 of unity that I think that nobody expected was shown around. Any kind of help, if you need it, you will get it from people that you don't know or you see first time in your life. Everybody were ready to support you and give you the chance to do whatever you need to do. So everybody feel as a one, and all of people were ready to die for this country, because some bastards decide by the force to explain us that we are not good enough or to put someone else down. For me, from this distance, 20 years after it, is incredible that nobody from the so big experts or from NATO figure out how the people behave. They have a huge history of Serbia. Whenever we are attacked, we are come to the unity, and we are all then breathing as a one. So this is something that was one more time demonstrated. I only this here through the stories of my grandfathers, my father, when the different kind of problems come, that we basically come in unity, and then in that moment you could see it on everyday life, on most of the faces of the people.
We were discussing earlier something that you thought was a shame for this country, that the country doesn't really recognize the victims. When we talk about how many innocent civilians and stuff were killed in this 78-day bombing campaign, the numbers really fluctuate. And why do you think that is? Explain that part where you thought that was a shame.
Yeah. For me, it is a shame that today we don't know exactly what are the consequences of the bombing, how big damage was done, and how much lives we lost during this time. This is what I respect basically in the real countries, where they see that there are some victims because of the country interest. Each of these victims should be respected and shown. Unfortunately, we still have in Serbia situation that we are dealing with the numbers between 1,500, 2,500. Nobody have a clear idea. It's not possible that you don't have a clear idea how many people is killed. You need to have names, places, and the bombs that directly kill them. This is what the countries do. When you are really country, you respect each of your citizens. Your citizens are not marbles that you can somehow lost them. No, you exactly know what is happening with your citizens, and you respect their sacrifice. Somebody killed these citizens and these soldiers because of some bigger interest. And the politicians need to make this clear, that each of these victims will be respected, not only in Serbia, but all around the Balkans. That each of the victims need to have the name, place, and the killer who did it. In this case, we can say, okay, it's not a bombing, and the reasons we can discuss, but there is no discussion. Do we need to have a clear picture, exact number of the people who are killed, so we can respect these people?
So everyday life, you were 16, you turned 17 April 13th, correct? So at this time, you're going to school, 2 schools, you're working in this photography place, and you told it's not funny by any means, but kind of a humorous, maybe a little bit of humor in it. Some people that came into the photography studio, tell us that one.
In that moment, we finished our obligation on the school, so we were not obliged to go every day in the school, it was cancelled, but I still was taking care of the Photoshop in that moment, and in the moment where it was expected that Novi Sad will be bombed and you have all these sirens around, just three guys came in our Photoshop and say, we would like to have the picture in your studio. And I was like, but bombs we would like to have the picture in the studio. And I say, okay, customer is always right, so what to do? Please come in our studio and we will make the picture. And first picture was a little bit blurry because my hands were a little bit shaking and bombs were going around, and the other one was okay, they're okay, I'm okay, we are in the house, so let's do it. And we do it, and they come to pick it up. But for me, it was this kind of unbelievable thing that people in that moment want to have picture that will say, okay, in the moment when we take this picture, the bombs were literally falling on our hands.
Yeah, as an American, I just can't even fathom that. I just can't imagine. If there was a bomb falling anywhere near me, the last thing I would think about is a picture, There's that term, I said it earlier, inat. A good way. Explain that, inat, would you?
Inat is something that is not possible to explain on one side. But on the other side, this means that if you offend me, and then there is nothing that you can do anymore, that I will stop doing against you. Or basically, if you are strong, if you show me so strong unrespect, I'm ready to die, but not to allow you to do what you want. So from Inat, I'm ready to do whatever I like. Something that is something in us on one side, but also show that we are proud. So there is the part where you can do it, but after, when you cross this thin line, then we come and see, no important what is the consequences, but you will not get what you want.
And everyday life, like you were 16, you wake up in the morning. What was a normal day during this bombing?
Yeah. So we moved from the place where we live regularly in the center of the Novi Sad to the Sremska Kamenica on the opposite side, to the family house with my grandfather and grandmother, and whole family come together there. And every day from the Sremska Kamenica part, so on the left bench of Danube, I go on the right bench of Danube to work in this photo shop, and there crossing with the barge. My photographer, from who I learned basically photography, was as a volunteer go in the military to work on the barge, and thanks to it I have meet all the people who were from the military responsible for the barge, and I spend a part of my day together with them and have this exclusive right basically to take a picture of them and live some part of the day with them. Between crossing and between working in the Photoshop, I basically stay with them and see how it's hard on one side, but also how it's important that there is the clear hierarchy and a clear idea who is responsible for what, and that people basically, even they were volunteers and the equipment was pretty old, were ready to do lots of things to connect people from left and right bank of the Danube, or to help them to go on the job or whatever they need.
And you said exclusive rights. So a normal guy, like if I would have been here, well, I wouldn't have been here at that time, but a normal person with a camera, what would they have done?
Yes, so a normal person with a camera, in that time it was the films. If they take a picture, the military or the policeman in that time will come, or military, and take the film out. I was like something like official photographer for them, because I was one of the guys. I was the shegrt in that time of one of the guys who were responsible for the barge. And basically this is the first time that all the pictures are published, because before it was in my private collections, it was not forbidden to publish it, but never like exhibition.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about the exhibition that we have here. How long is it open, etc.?
So we open a little bit symbolic the exhibition on the 24th of March 2019 in 15 minutes before 8. This was exactly 20 years before first bombs fall on Novi Sad. We do the small projections of the bombing on the ceiling, and some speech with the people who were military in that time, explaining what was happening. And also in that moment, on the end, we destroyed two planes. I asked my kids to destroy two piñata planes, one blue and one pink, and because when I was young, for us, when we saw the airplane, basically we expected he will put us the bonbons, not the bombs. Because we had this small song, Avionu baci mi bombonu, airplane, please give me the bonbons. And for me, this was something, when I saw the airplane, for me, never was association as a kid to get the bombs. And then I hope that never again will happen like this. And this is why I asked my kids, okay, destroy these two maquettes of the airplanes and get the bonbons. Because bonbons should be something that you will get, not the bombs. And with this, we basically slowly close the opening of the exhibition that will last until 13th of April, 20 days for 20 years of the bombing. So for each year of bombing that passed, 1 day of exhibition to be open. And on the other side, we do it also together with the European Youth Capital. So Novi Sad in 2019 is European Youth Capital, and with the support of this association, we did also this exhibition.
Yeah, nice. Last question, lasting effects of this bombing. You know, you said you had your kids break up part two piñatas, so they have this different view, hopefully. That's what they're going to remember from an airplane. But you, I mean, you grew up 16, you've had these bombs falling around you. What are the effects of that bombing? Do you notice any long-term effects?
We have, as we spoke, as we didn't have still number of people who are died, we still don't have institution who will say exactly what happened and what are the long effects. On the personal side, what is effect on me, I understand that most valuable thing that we have is our life and life of other persons. And nobody have a right, no matter what is the reason, to take this life off. So I learn my kids that life is important, that we need to know what was happening and forgive if something bad is happening, but not to forget. If we forget what is happening, then through the history shown that it will repeat. If we remember what is happening and we learn from that what was happening, then we have a chance to escape from the same destiny next time.
Love it, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Do viđenja.